Before you learn how to deal with toxic people, you must face a harder truth. They only have power because you hand it to them. Not with your words, but with your silence that hides fear, with your smile that hides discomfort, with your patience that has turned into self-betrayal. Notice this. The moment you feel small in front of someone, the moment your chest tightens, the moment you rehearse what you should have said hours later, that is the exact moment you abandoned yourself. Toxic people don't destroy you. Your lack of self-respect does. Respect is not loud. It does not argue. It does not explain. It stands still, grounded, unshaken. And when you learn to stand rooted in who you are, without seeking approval, without reacting, without needing to be understood, you become untouchable. The moment you stop trying to be understood by everyone is the moment your power returns to you. Right now, think about how many times you stayed quiet. Not because you were strong, but because you were afraid of losing approval. You nodded when you disagreed. You smiled when you felt disrespected. You stayed polite while your self-worth was being negotiated. That silence was not power. That silence was permission. And toxic people are experts at sensing permission. Here is the uncomfortable truth. The more you explain yourself, the less you are respected. The more you seek validation, the more authority you lose. Approval seeking is not kindness, it is self-abandonment disguised as peace. You think you are avoiding conflict, but what you are really doing is creating an inner war, one where your voice is silenced and your boundaries are erased. Power does not disappear suddenly. It leaks slowly every time you choose comfort over truth. Silence becomes powerful only when it is chosen, not when it is forced by fear. There is a difference between staying quiet because you are grounded and staying quiet because you are scared. Toxic people thrive on reactions, explanations, emotional labor. They feed on your need to be liked, your urge to clarify, your desire to prove your worth. When you remove that fuel, they lose interest. Not because you won an argument, but because you stop playing the game. Notice how powerful people speak less but stand firmer. They do not rush to respond. They do not justify their decisions. They do not beg for understanding. Their silence carries weight because it comes from clarity, not confusion. When you know who you are, you don't need permission to exist. You don't need applause to stand straight. You don't need approval to respect yourself. The real shift happens when you stop asking, will they like this? And start asking, does this respect me? That single question changes everything. It changes how you sit in a room. It changes how you respond to disrespect. It changes how you walk away without guilt. Silence in this state is no longer weakness, it is presence. And presence is felt immediately. People may not understand you, but they will feel you. And feeling commands more respect than explanation ever will. Toxic people push boundaries to see how much they can take. Each time you over-explain, you teach them that your limits are flexible. Each time you apologize for your needs, you tell them your needs are negotiable. Each time you stay silent to keep peace, you show them that peace matters more to you than dignity. Silence is only power when it protects your dignity, not when it sacrifices it. There will be moments when saying nothing feels uncomfortable. That discomfort is growth. You are breaking a pattern that once kept you safe, but now keeps you small. You are retraining yourself to sit with disapproval without shrinking. This is not arrogance. This is self-respect. You are not responsible for how others react to your boundaries. You are responsible for honoring them. When you stop seeking approval, you stop bending. When you stop bending, people feel the shift. Some will resist it. Some will test you harder. And some will leave. Let them. What remains is quieter, cleaner, stronger. Silence stops being empty and starts becoming a statement. I know my worth, and I don't need your agreement to live by it. The moment you react emotionally, you hand over control of the situation. Not because you are wrong, not because you are weak, but because reaction shifts power away from intention and into impulse. Toxic people understand this instinctively. They don't want your truth, they want your reaction. They provoke, interrupt, dismiss, and disrespect. Not to win a discussion, but to pull you out of your center. And the instant they succeed, authority changes hands. Reaction is predictable. It is loud, rushed, defensive. It explains too much, justifies too quickly, and reveals exactly where you are vulnerable. When you react, you show people what buttons to press next time. You show them where your emotions live. You show them how to control the rhythm of the interaction. Calm, on the other hand, is unreadable, and what cannot be read cannot be controlled. Think about it. How many times did you feel disrespected, not because of what someone said, but because of how you responded afterward? You replayed the moment in your head, thinking, I shouldn't have said that, or I gave them too much. That feeling is not regret over honesty. It is regret over loss of authority. Authority disappears the moment you allow someone else's behavior to dictate your emotional state. There is a difference between responding and reacting. Reaction is unconscious. Response is deliberate. Reaction is fueled by ego, by the need to defend, to correct, to be seen as right. Response is fueled by self-respect. It pauses, it observes, it chooses. Toxic people want speed. They want chaos. They want you off balance. Your stillness disrupts their strategy. When you don't react, something interesting happens. The power dynamic shifts. Suddenly they are the ones exposed. Their behavior hangs in the air without your emotion to justify it. Their words lose momentum. Their tactics fall flat. Calmness acts like a mirror. It reflects their energy back to them without distortion. And most people are deeply uncomfortable seeing themselves clearly. This is why silence, eye contact, and measured words feel intimidating, not because they are aggressive, but because they signal self-command. When you react, you chase control. When you remain calm, control comes to you. Authority is not asserted, it is sensed. And it is sensed most strongly when you are unmovable. You don't need to raise your voice to be heard. You don't need to argue to be respected. You don't need to prove your intelligence to someone committed to misunderstanding you. Reaction is an invitation to chaos. Calm is a boundary. And boundaries don't shout, they stand. There will be moments when everything in you wants to react. Your body tightens. Your mind races. Your ego demands expression. This is the moment of training. Not external training, internal. You are teaching yourself that dignity is more valuable than being right in the moment. That control is more powerful than release. That respect begins with restraint. Some people will mistake your calm for weakness. Let them. Weakness reacts. Strength observes. Weakness needs the last word. Strength decides whether the conversation is worth having at all. Over time, people learn how to approach you. Not because you demanded respect, but because you stopped reacting to disrespect. Most people think boundaries are walls, something aggressive, cold, or confrontational. But boundaries are not built to keep others out, they are built to keep you intact. The absence of boundaries is not kindness, it is confusion. And confusion invites disrespect. Toxic people don't cross lines because they are powerful. They cross lines because no line was made visible. A boundary is simply the point where self-respect becomes action. It is the quiet moment when you decide, this stops here. No drama, no speeches, no threats, just clarity. And clarity changes how people behave around you. Not because you explained yourself better, but because your behavior did the explaining for you. When you fail to set boundaries, you teach others that access to you is unlimited. Unlimited time, unlimited energy, unlimited tolerance. And when something is unlimited, it is taken for granted. That's not cruelty, it's human nature. Respect grows in the presence of limits. Without limits, even good people become careless. With toxic people, carelessness turns into exploitation. The hardest part about boundaries is not enforcing them, it's surviving the discomfort that follows. the guilt, the fear of being misunderstood, the worry that you will be seen as difficult, cold, or selfish. That discomfort is not a sign you are doing something wrong. It is a sign you are breaking an old pattern, one where your worth depended on how much you could endure. Boundaries expose people. When you say no, some will push harder, some will mock, some will accuse you of changing. That reaction tells you everything you need to know. People who benefited from your lack of boundaries will always resist your growth. Not because you are wrong, but because access has been reduced. A boundary does not require an explanation. Explanation invites negotiation. Negotiation weakens clarity. The more you explain, the more people feel entitled to debate your limits. Your life is not a committee decision. A boundary is not something you argue. It is something you live. Notice the shift when your actions align with your words. You stop answering late messages. You leave when disrespect appears. You stop overgiving. You don't threaten to walk away, you walk away. This consistency is what gives boundaries weight. Words without action are requests. Action without noise is authority. Toxic people test boundaries the way water tests cracks. Slowly, patiently, repeatedly. If you hold firm, they move on. If you soften once, they return stronger. This is not personal. It is behavioral. And behavior only changes when the environment does. Your boundaries are the environment. Setting boundaries will cost you comfort. It may cost you relationships. It will definitely cost you the version of yourself that survived by being agreeable. But what you gain is something far more valuable: self-trust. The knowledge that you will not abandon yourself to keep others comfortable. Boundaries are not about controlling others. They are about controlling your participation. You don't need to force respect. You demonstrate it by how you allow yourself to be treated. Over time, people learn what behavior is acceptable around you, not because you demanded it, but because you enforced it quietly and consistently. Every interaction you have is a lesson, whether you realize it or not. Not a lesson you give with words, but one you teach with behavior. People are always watching, not your intentions, not your promises, not your values, but what you tolerate, what you excuse, and what you allow to repeat. Long before anyone disrespects you openly, you show them how much respect is required to stay in your life. Most people believe respect is something you ask for. It's not. Respect is something you demonstrate. And the demonstration is subtle. It happens when you laugh something off that hurt you. When you respond quickly to messages that drain you. When you keep showing up for people who show up only when it benefits them. Each moment seems small, but patterns are never small. Patterns are instructions. Toxic people rarely begin by crossing major lines. They start with small tests. A comment, a delay, a dismissal. They wait to see your response. If you ignore it, they escalate. If you excuse it, they repeat it. If you reward it with continued access, they internalize the lesson: this behavior is acceptable. Over time, the behavior becomes bolder, and you are left wondering how things got so out of control. They didn't change. The lesson stayed the same. Teaching people how to treat you does not mean correcting them. Correction invites resistance. Teaching happens through consistency. When your behavior changes, the lesson changes. When you stop engaging with disrespect, it loses momentum. When you remove access instead of arguing, the message becomes clear without a single word. The difficulty is that teaching through action requires patience. It requires you to sit with the discomfort of not explaining yourself, to allow silence to do the work, to trust that your absence communicates more than your arguments ever could. This is where most people fail, not because they don't know what to do, but because they can't tolerate the temporary discomfort of doing it. People treat you based on what they believe you will accept tomorrow, not what you complained about yesterday. Complaints without consequences are noise. Consequences without emotion are lessons. The moment your actions stop matching your tolerance, behavior around you begins to adjust. Some people will improve. Some will disappear. Both outcomes are information. Improvement means the relationship had respect buried under habit. Disappearance means the relationship was sustained by your self-neglect. Neither outcome is a loss. Loss only happens when you continue to teach people that your boundaries are flexible and your time is negotiable. This is not about becoming cold or distant. It is about becoming clear. Clear people are predictable in the best way. They don't overreact, but they also don't overextend. They don't threaten, but they follow through. Their consistency creates safety for themselves first, and then for others. You cannot teach respect while accepting disrespect. The lesson will never land. Every time you stay in a situation that diminishes you, you reinforce the wrong message. And every time you step away calmly, you rewrite the curriculum. Over time, the people who remain in your life are those who learned how to treat you properly. Not because you demanded it, but because you required it through action. There is a reason calm unsettles people who thrive on control. Calm removes their leverage. It gives them nothing to push against, nothing to hook into, nothing to escalate. When you stay composed in the presence of provocation, you are not suppressing yourself, you are asserting mastery. Calm is not passive. Calm is precise. Most people think strength looks like confrontation. Raised voices, sharp words, emotional release. But that kind of strength burns fast and leaves you exposed. Real strength is quieter. It regulates itself. It does not need to dominate the room to own it. A calm presence shifts the atmosphere without effort, because it refuses to participate in chaos. Toxic people rely on urgency. They want immediate reactions, immediate explanations, immediate emotional access. Urgency is their tool. Calm dissolves urgency. When you slow your breath, when you pause before responding, when you choose not to match their intensity, you break their rhythm. And once their rhythm is broken, their influence weakens. Calm presence is not about ignoring what is happening. It is about seeing clearly while others are blinded by emotion. When you are calm, you notice tone instead of words, patterns instead of incidents, intent instead of excuses. This awareness gives you an advantage because you are no longer reacting to what is said, but responding to what is actually happening. People often confuse calm with indifference. It is not indifference. It is discernment. You care enough about yourself to not waste energy on battles that cost more than they give. You care enough to preserve clarity. You care enough to choose your response carefully. Indifference is numb. Calm is awake. A calm presence communicates boundaries without announcing them. It says, I am not available for disrespect, without needing to say a word. It says, you don't control my emotional state, without confrontation. This is why calm feels intimidating, not because it is cold, but because it is self-contained. Remaining calm does not mean you tolerate everything. It means you decide when engagement is necessary and when distance is more powerful. Calm allows you to walk away without anger, to end conversations without drama, to disengage without guilt. This is not avoidance. This is selectivity. You are choosing where your energy goes instead of letting others take it. There will be moments when staying calm feels unnatural. When your body wants to react, when your ego wants to defend. This is the moment of discipline. Not suppression, discipline. You are training yourself to remain centered even when challenged. Over time, this becomes your default. And when calm becomes your default, your presence alone sets the tone. People adjust around calm individuals. Voices soften. Games stop working. Manipulation loses effectiveness. Not always immediately, but inevitably. Calm does not force change. It makes dysfunction obvious. And when dysfunction becomes obvious, it can no longer hide behind your reactions. You don't need to announce your strength. You don't need to prove your intelligence. You don't need to win every exchange. Calm presence is the quiet signal that you are grounded, self-directed, and not easily moved. And people treat you accordingly, not because you asked them to, but because your energy required it. You don't need to fight to be respected. You don't need to explain yourself into exhaustion. You don't need to shrink, harden, or become someone you're not. Everything you've heard today comes down to one truth. The way you treat yourself teaches the world how to treat you. The moment you stop chasing approval, stop reacting to provocation, stop negotiating your boundaries, stop tolerating what costs you your peace, and start standing calm, clear, and grounded, you become unmovable, not loud, not aggressive, unstoppable. So walk out of here differently. Walk slower, speak less, but mean more. Protect your energy like it matters, because it does. Choose dignity over drama, presence over performance, self-respect over validation. Let your actions speak so clearly that your silence becomes undeniable. And when toxic people realize they can no longer reach you, you'll know the work has begun to pay off. Carry this with you. Live it. Practice it daily. Good luck on your journey, and thank you for listening.